Hello. Today in this tutorial we are going to see how we can integrate OpenRouter with our Spring AI applications. So when it comes to OpenRouter, you can think of it as a platform which provides single unified interface for interacting with various LLMs from different providers. So the interface or API provided by OpenRouter is compatible with the OpenAI specifications. So using a single endpoint, we can interact with more than 400 models, which is a advantage of using OpenRouter. And when it comes to changing models within our application, all we will have to do is we just need to change the model LLM model with which we want to interact. So no code changes are required, only configuration change will be required. So let's understand what exactly is OpenRouter. So this is the homepage of OpenRouter, which is openrouter.ai. Here you will see they have provided unified interface for interacting with various models, including Google Gemini, OpenAI ChatGPT, or Claude Sonnet. And here they have mentioned they have more than 400 plus models available on their platform. So before we can integrate any of the model, first we need to create the account on the OpenRouter website, for which you can click on sign in button, and then we will see we have various options available like sign in with Google or GitHub, or we can even use the our email address for signing up and signing in the OpenRouter website. Once we have signed in, the first thing we can explore is the models that are available on the OpenRouter website, for which you can click on the models tab, and here you can see the different models are listed. We can also apply different filters like which model support text, image, file, what is the context length, and if we are interested in models from specific provider, we can apply such filters as well. One of the advantage of using OpenRouter is they also offer set of free models which we can use without paying anything, which are from the POC point of view. So all we have to do is inside the filter text, we need to type the text as free, based on which we will get the set of free models which we can use directly. For example, we have models from DeepSeek, as well as we have models from Google Gemini which we can use. So this was regarding the models overview. Based on a requirement, we can check what is the cost for input output tokens and on, and accordingly we can decide the model which we have to use. And coming to the next part, which is related to the paid models. So before we can start using the paid models, first we will have to add the credits within our OpenRouter account, for which you can click on your profile, click on credits, and here you can add the payment method, and once the payment method is added, you can buy the credits for the platform, and accordingly you can use the paid models. So this was regarding the adding the payment credits. Now before we can start integrating OpenRouter, we will have to create the API key which we will use within our Spring AI application, for which you can go to your profile, click on keys, and then you can create the API key. For example, for our tutorial we are creating the key with name Spring AI POC, and once the key is created, we can copy the value and store it securely, because it won't be visible at a later stage. So this will be required while we will integrate with OpenRouter with our Spring AI application. So this was the basic overview regarding the OpenRouter website. Now coming back to our blog. So the application that we are going to build in this tutorial is the Smart Chat Assistant, wherein user can submit any query and our application will respond accordingly. So behind the scenes, our Spring AI application will make use of OpenRouter, and using OpenRouter, we will route our queries to the LLM. So for this tutorial, we are going to make use of one model which is Cypher Alpha, which is free to use. I'll showcase you the configuration for the same as well. Before that, let's understand the project structure. So the name of the project is Spring AI OpenRouter Integration, within which we have one simple controller containing one endpoint wherein user can submit their queries. And this chat controller will interact with the service class, which is the chat service class. And behind the scenes, the chat service class contains the logic to interact with the LLM via OpenRouter. And based on the query that user has submitted, it will be routed to the LLM. And once we have received the response, it will be sent back to the controller, and controller will return the response to the user. And then we have the simple two DTOs, chat request and chat response, which contains the fields for accepting input from the user and also for sending the response that we have received from the LLM. Then we have the Spring Boot main application class, and then we have the application YML containing the configuration for LLM, and pom.xml containing project configuration. Now coming to the IntelliJ, here you will see the project structure is similar that we have seen just now. So let's start with the pom.xml. Um, Here you will see the Java version that we are making use of is 21. The Spring AI version is 1.0.0, which is the stable version. Then for creating the REST APIs, we have added Spring Boot Starter Web. And then we have added Spring AI Starter Model OpenAI, which will be useful for interacting with the LLM. Now, since OpenRouter APIs are compatible with the OpenAI specifications, due to which we have added this particular dependency. Then we have added the Spring AI Bomb dependency, which is useful for managing the Spring AI related dependencies. So coming to the next file, which is application YML. This is a very simple configuration file within which we have specified the configuration for AI like Spring AI, then OpenAI. Then we have specified the API key. Now here we will use the same API key that we obtained from the OpenRouter website, and we are passing it via the environment variables. And we have kept the base URL as the openrouter.ai/API. So this is the base URL that we have to use if we are making use of the OpenRouter. So behind the scenes, it will override the base URL which is available for OpenAI. Then we have specified the model, which is Cypher Alpha. So if you go to the OpenRouter website, here you will see we have the Cypher Alpha model available. And if we click on it, this is the ID that we have used within the Spring AI application YML OpenRouter/Cypher Alpha :free. Here you will see the ID's name. So coming to the controller, so which is the chat controller. This is the base path for our controller /API/chat. Within this controller, we have created one simple post endpoint whose path suffix is /message. And here we are accepting some input from the user based on which we have created the request body. So if you see the chat request record, here we are accepting the input from the user which will be mapped to this particular field, which is message. Now once we have received the input, we need to send this input to the service class which will interact with the LLM, for which we have added the chat service within the controller. And inside the chat service, we have the process message method within which we are passing the input that we have received from the user. And once we have received the response from the service class, we will simply return it back to the user. And here if you see the chat response record, it also contains one simple field within which the response from LLM will be mapped. Now coming to the service class, here you will see at the very top we have the chat client. Now chat client is useful for interacting with the LLMs. So first we need to initialize the chat client, for which we are making use of the chat client builder, which is provided by the Spring only. And using the builder, we are calling the build method, which will initialize our chat client. Once the chat client is initialized, we can use it for interacting with the LLMs. Now coming to the process message method, which was getting called from controller. As an input, we are receiving the chat request record containing the request from the user, and based on it we have added certain log statement. Once we have received the input, then we need to make use of chat client to interact with the LLM, for which here we are calling chat client.prompt. And whatever query that we have received from the user was present inside the message field, so we are passing it inside the user's prompt, and then we are calling the LLM. and whatever response that we will receive from LLM, we are only interested in the content, which means the actual response that we have received from the LLM, we are only extracting that part. The additional metadata that is written by LLM, we are not interested in that, due to which we have skipped. So once we have received the response, we are just returning back to the controller class in the form of chat response record. And during the entire process, if any error is encountered, we are just drafting one simple error message which will be returned back to the user. So this was the basic application that we have created, within which we will accept some input and we will simply return the response back. Once the application is started, we can jump to the Postman to test our APIs. So here you can see we are calling the slash API slash chat message endpoint, which is a post type of endpoint. And within the request body, we are just asking one simple question: what is abstraction in object oriented programming? So once we will send the request, behind the scenes, the request will be routed to Cypher Alpha model with via OpenRouter API that we have used. So here you will see we have received the response from the OpenRouter. So this was all regarding how we can integrate OpenRouter within our application. Now coming back to the OpenRouter website, here we have the concept of dashboard as well, within which we can see the different metrics based on the usage that we have done related to different models or our credits. So if you go to the profile, click on activity, here you will see we have the dashboard within which the entire activity that we have performed related to different models is logged here. How many input and output tokens were used, what was the cost involved, what were the tokens per second throughput. So all this information we will get it here. And if we are making use of any paid models, that will also be logged here, and you can see that particular information here. Coming to the free versus paid models, so if you are performing any POC, if you are trying to explore the platform, start with the free models, and once your application is ready, then you can start using the paid models which are ready from the production usage point of view. Also, when it comes to the free models, there may be rate limits involved, or the free models are updated from time to time. So it might be possible that the model that you are using might be removed from the platform. So start using the paid models if you are deploying your application in production. And when it comes to using the open router APIs, you can also explore what are the rate limits involved related to different models, as well as rate limits from the open router perspective, for which we have this particular official doc from open router, which is openrouter.ai/doc/API reference and limits. Here you will see the rate limits that are imposed by the open router, and also free account has different rate limits compared to the paid one. So the entire information mentioned here, you can go through the same. Now when it comes to the error handling, for error handling as well, we have the official docs which ends with /error, within which you will get the information for what all different scenarios, what all different error codes will be sent are documented here. And if we are getting the errors from the providers, then that kind of information will also be present inside error.metadata. So based on this information, accordingly you can add the error handling within your application. So now let's say we were using the Sapphire Alpha, and tomorrow if you want to switch to other model, all we have to do is within our Spring AI application YML file, all we need to do is we will just change the model. The rest of the things will remain the same. So yeah, that was all regarding the open router. So we have also created one detailed article for this. So if you are interested, you can go through the same. And also the example that we discussed during this tutorial is available on GitHub. So you can check out and try the same. So yeah, that's all from my end. I hope that was useful. Thank you.